Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are at the last pay-per-view before WrestleMania, Fastlane. You know, this kind of almost does feel like a filler pay-per-view, and it almost kind of feels like we don't even really need it for March, and I'd rather, or some people would rather, they just build it up for WrestleMania, seeing as how I was actually looking earlier today at the 2001 pay-per-view lineup, and there was not a pay-per-view for March. No. Like, after No Way Out in February of that year, waited all the way till April 1st for WrestleMania. Yeah, but whatever. I mean, some stuff seems interesting, and there's been a lot of crazy things going on here. So, yeah, we're going to talk about it all here for Fastlane. I'm CoffeeLover239, and with me once again, as always, is Heathy. Say hi, Heathy.
Yes.
And on that note, let's get into it. Our first match is the Usos versus The Miz and Shane McMahon for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships? And you thought that whole no more automatic rematch clause was gonna fully work. But hey, I guess McMahon has power for whatever. Okay, so at Elimination Chamber, for some damn reason, the Usos defeated The Miz and Shane McMahon to win the SmackDown Tag Team Championship. You think Miz and Shane would have held on to the belt just a little bit longer, but no. And even with that whole DUI crap, or not DUI, but drunken disorderly conduct, apologies, Freudian slip, it's a little hard to keep up with this stuff at times, crazy. Even with drunken disorderly conduct, as long as you're a Samoan, what the hell, you get a pass. So yeah, the Usos defeated McMiz to win those belts. And on the following episode of SmackDown, The Miz, who was pinned, apologized to Shane for costing him the match and begged Shane to schedule a rematch. The Usos interrupted and insulted Miz, and then Shane went ahead and scheduled the rematch for the titles at Fastlane. Because screw fresh and original matchups, let's just repeat shit. Well, I get why on one hand they kind of lost the belts, because obviously the rumors have been going around that they're going to build up to have The Miz and Shane turn on each other. I probably would rather have The Miz turn on Shane, because Miz works better as a heel compared to face. But, yeah, you think maybe a little longer, but, oh, whatever. I guess this sort of is going to build up, and probably after this point we could see a turn and potentially building up that match, but I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Heathy, who do you think's gonna win?
Well, I'm very intrigued by the match so far. It is going to build up as the last chance for Miz and McMahon, who's a dynamic for the team I've really enjoyed so far. But from what it seems, it is going to lead to an eventual match between the two. The fact that I think the Usos should be entering tag champs. I think this will be their second time remaining show or something stupid like that. If that is the case, can expect the Shane heel turn in this match. I expect the Usos to win, but I also expect the Miz to get pinned. This is in his hometown of Cleveland, Ohio, and his dad will be in the first row. So I expect Shane. It's just textbook WWE to have Shane attack the hometown hero. And we can finally settle the match that we've all been thinking is going to happen for quite some time now. No, I'm going to go with the Usos to retain.
Yeah, they've been building this up, like I said, for a little bit now, admittedly, even if Miz and Shane seems like a random-ass match to do at Mania out of nowhere. But, yeah, I suppose this is probably, if there was any time that they were going to do the turn, this is probably the best place to do it at this point. And probably once you-know-who gets beat, once the Usos probably will more than likely retain. And if they do, I kind of wonder what's going to happen with the SmackDown Tag Division going into Mania. Like, who's going to be the one challenging? There's really not a whole lot of contenders on that side of things. I mean, The Bar, again, no thank you. They ran their shtick into the ground enough as is. Heavy Machinery? I guess. I don't know. All I know is for now, we'll get to that when we get to that. But for now, I will say the Usos will win. Our next match is Daniel Bryan versus Kevin Owens for the WWE Championship. Wait, you thought Kofi was going to be in it. Well, nice try. They're going to swerve you Vince Russo style because we can't get away from that. Seriously, is Russo secretly not still secretly hired by the WWE? Because with all these swerves, you think he's the one booking stuff, but I digress. Okay, so let me see if I can find the info. Here it is. Okay, so on the February 12th episode of SmackDown, the New Day's Kofi Kingston was a last-minute replacement for an injured Mustafa Ali in a gauntlet match to determine who would enter the Elimination Chamber match last. Kofi pinned Daniel Bryan and lasted over an hour before getting eliminated. At Elimination Chamber, Bryan retained the title in the titular match, with Kingston being the last wrestler eliminated. On the following episode of SmackDown, Kingston was granted a WWE Championship match at Fastlane after pinning Bryan in a six-man tag match that pitted Kingston, AJ Styles, and Jeff Hardy against Bryan, Samoa Joe, and Randy Orton. The following week, however, WWE Chairman Vince McMahon interrupted the contract signing between Bryan and Kingston. Although he praised Kingston, he replaced him with a returning Kevin Owens, stating that Owens was more qualified and more deserving of the opportunity. Deja vu, anybody? Although I wouldn't say it's quite as infuriating as the whole Becky Lynch thing, and we'll get to that when we get to that, but it still feels a little bizarre. It feels like this kind of shoot first and deal with the aftermath later. Like, apparently I think probably they want to give Kofi a shot at Mania, but if that's the case, then why not just have them sign a contract match for Mania, even if it may be early on, but you could still get a good amount of build-up, and then have Bryan be like, well, who am I supposed to face at Fastlane? And then, boom, bring in Kevin Owens, bada bing, bada boom. No one is pretty much, angry with this. I mean, some people kind of see it, but it's just frustrating with this shoot first and swerve later, and then maybe work out for the best. Who do you think's gonna win?
I completely agree with you with Kofi. You know, they're not just announcing them at Mania, but Fastlane. I think when they announced the contract signing, it was last Tuesday, just before, but when they announced the contract signing, it really was a case of walking before having thought of where to walk. They were walking off a cliff with this thing. They put themselves into a corner, and at the last minute, they probably brought Owens in so they could save Kofi to Mania. Saving Kofi to Mania, I think it is a smart decision. I think Kofi is, on paper, it doesn't look like a match, but action and the feud that's currently going on, it is the money match. The interesting with Owens, with him being the family man and him just being the average guy that you've probably seen in the audience, and then you have McMahon sent him out to take ultimate babyface in the situation. I see him as sort of a tweener, although at the same time I really don't think McMahon's interference was needed. It was a blatant rehash of the Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, Ronda Rousey situation. But as far as the match goes at Fastlane, from Kofi till Mania, they've already built, a few weeks worth of storyline alongside Bryan, with Kofi getting a pinfall on him. They will not throw that away. Just Owens versus Kingston at Mania. I don't think that's where they're going. At Kofi Mania, and it's going to be against Daniel Bryan. So I think Daniel Bryan's going to retain.
Obviously so, and I honestly don't see Daniel Bryan losing that just yet. I mean, we still got that damn hemp belt to shove in your face every single week on TV. As ugly as it is, I probably still think it honestly looks better than the Universal Championship, but yeah, obviously we've got a stopgap here to fill in, and it probably would be a bigger moment to have Kofi win at WrestleMania, implying that's the plan in the first place, for him to win at Mania. But hey, it would be nice to have him win there, and honestly, Daniel Bryan, probably will just ultimately retain, I imagine. That's what I'm going to go with. But I do wonder what's going to happen with Kevin Owens, probably after all this. Is he still going to be somewhere in the main event picture, or is he going to maybe, I don't know, but for now, I'm going to go ahead and say Daniel Bryan will win. Our next match is the Boston Hug Connection, Bayley and Sasha Banks versus Nia Jax and Tamina, the Samoan Slaughterhouse, for the WWE Women's Tag Team Championship. So, let me see if I can find it. Here we go. At Elimination Chamber, the Boston Hug Connection, Bayley and Sasha Banks, defeated Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose, Fire and Desire, the Riot Squad, represented by Liv Morgan and Sarah Logan, the Iconics, or slash Iconic duo, if you're still like me, Billie Kay and Peyton Royce, Naomi and Carmella, Fabulous Glow, and Nia Jax and Tamina, the Samoan Slaughterhouse, in a tag team elimination chamber match to become the inaugural holders of the WWE Women's Tag Team Championship. The following night on Raw, their championship celebration was interrupted by Jax and Tamina, and Jax taunted Banks about not being able to retain a championship in her title defenses. The following week, the Boston Hug Connection were scheduled to defend the championship against Jax and Tamina and Fastlane. Seems like we have a little bit of an underdog kind of thing going here, and it's not like they're in another crazy structure again. This time it's just a regular one-on-one match, so dynamics a little changed here with Bayley and Sasha going up against the big Samoan women, Nia and Tamina, and put them in a regular match. Things definitely going to be a bit different. Heathy, who do you think's going to win?
Well, from the get-go, after the Chamber match ended, you really did think this was the only credible match that could have been put on the next show. I mean, there's arguments for saving this until Fastlane, but the I wouldn't say chemistry, but it's the top bad team versus the top babyface team. I wouldn't have the Iconics or who's another team in there, but I don't know. And have anyone else go up against these teams. I have Naomi and Carmella reformed for this. I'm expecting them to retain. A bit of build up on NXT house shows recently between them and the Pirate of the Sky, Io Shirai, and no, the Pirate is Kairi Sane, Io Shirai, two women from NXT, and there's been a bit of build up that them two be the ones to face off at WrestleMania, which I'd be all for. Now, I think it's too early to switch hands. I think this is going to start the show. I think it's going to be a nice little crowd pleaser to get them in the mood. Sasha Banks and Bayley. It's going to be a straightforward retention for the Boston Hug Connection.
Yeah, the rumor going into Mania is that it's going to be a fatal four-way with Banks and Bayley defending against one team from Raw, one team from SmackDown, and one team from NXT. The NXT team will probably be the Sky Pirates, Io Shirai and Kairi Sane. Don't know quite who they'd have for SmackDown. I guess the Iconics? I don't know. And for Raw, well, not really many choices there, but still, yeah, it probably makes sense more than likely regardless for the Boston Hug Connection to retain. I mean, they've at least got some momentum, and they've got a decent storyline going at least. And hey, maybe actually Sasha Banks can actually successfully defend a title for once. But I digress. I'm going to go ahead and say the Boston Hug Connection will win. Our next match is Asuka versus Mandy Rose for the SmackDown Women's Championship. So, on the February 19th episode of SmackDown, during a backstage segment, SmackDown Women's Champion Asuka was interrupted by Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose. So Rose challenged Asuka to a non-title match and defeated her. Wait, what the hell? This says due to a distraction by Lacey Evans. That's not really true. Ooh. Mandy Rose just got the jump, managed to get Asuka face first into the turnbuckle, and then rolled her up. Well, on a side note real quick, what the hell are they even doing with Lacey Evans? Whatever, I need to get that out of my system. So the following week, Rose was granted a championship match against Asuka at Fastlane, and that's all the build-up there is. They really haven't been giving this a whole lot of build-up. In fact, we haven't seen Asuka all that much on SmackDown as of late, despite the fact that she's the damn women's champion. There's really not been too much build-up, and it's a damn shame. Who do you think's gonna win?
From what they've been doing with this build-up, can people expect it to be anything else than an afterthought of a match? I think people are looking past Mandy Rose and looking ahead to who Asuka will be defending against at WrestleMania. This match has to be a squash. I don't see anything else. Asuka, as much as I hate 50-50 booking, this is the one case where I'll make an exception. This is where she needs to get her momentum back. To feel, of course, that could make for an interesting factor, an interesting dynamic, because there has been rumors that Sonya Deville may indeed be the one to face Asuka, among others like Nikki Cross and Lacey Evans, the one who caused Asuka to lose to Mandy Rose.
Kind of.
I think it's going to be either sort of. Either Lacey Evans or Sonya Deville has to be the one to face Asuka. It's only one that makes sense, because on one hand, you can move from Mandy and then you move on to Sonya, and on the other hand, you've got Lacey Evans, who's she's been in the line for a big push for ever since she debuted. Apparently, WWE officials are really high on her, and to have her maybe come out and distract Asuka, nearly make her lose. Maybe that's the match they're going to go for, but I think many people could be interested in this match rather than what happens after the match. Asuka for an easy retention.
Yeah, apparently WWE high on the blonde. Imagine my shock. Not really, but whatever. Yeah, I don't really see this going any other way. Asuka really just needs to retain and still have a better run with the belts. Maybe feature a little more, and then even then, it's like, who is she even gonna face at Mania? Because, well, when you look at it, they've really put so much more effort into what's going on Raw that practically SmackDown's like an afterthought for them at this point. It's like, and is Lacey Evans actually going to get in the damn ring and wrestle? It's starting to irritate me. But yeah, Asuka should win here, and honestly, maybe she could finally get one over on the blonde, or not. Whatever, I'm going to go ahead and say Asuka to win. Our next match is the Shield, yes, the Shield, Dean Ambrose, Roman Reigns, and Seth Rollins versus the unholy trio of Baron Corbin, Drew McIntyre, and Bobby Lashley in a 6-man tag team match, players. Oh, brother. Yeah, so remember back to October 22nd when Roman Reigns went on hiatus due to leukemia and subsequently vacated the Universal Championship. And then later that night, Reigns' teammates Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose won the Raw Tag Team Championships. However, immediately after the match, Ambrose turned on Rollins, feeling the Shield had made him weak. Rollins and Ambrose fought over the next couple of months, with their feud culminating at tables, ladders, and chairs, in which Ambrose defeated Rollins to win the Intercontinental Championship. Reigns actually returned on the February 25th, 2019 episode of Raw and explained that his leukemia was in remission and he would return to action. Congrats on getting that leukemia in remission, and hopefully it goes down for the full 3 count. The following week, Reigns called out Rollins and wanted to reunite the Shield one more time. Because we haven't had enough Shield reunions, now have we? Rollins reluctantly agreed, since it would mean having the team with Ambrose again. Later, after Ambrose was defeated by Elias, Reigns and Rollins came out, but Ambrose exited through the crowd. And then, that stupid unholy trio, or just the unholy trio, as I'm calling them from here on out, of Baron Corbin, Drew McIntyre, and Bobby Lashley then ambushed Reigns and Rollins. Because those three, for some reason, are still together, and those three, especially Baron Corbin, don't know when to stay out of other people's business. But I digress. And then after they started ambushing Reigns and Rollins, Ambrose returned and aided his former Shield brothers. After gaining the upper hand, Ambrose joined Reigns and Rollins for their signature Shield fist bump, and a six-man tag team match pitting the reunited Shield against the Unholy Trio was scheduled for Fastlane. I mean, this is probably one of the better ways as well to sort of get Roman back in. I mean, he's finally back from his hiatus, and glad to see him back. We've all missed him. And yeah, probably a better way to get him over, and maybe have the Shield just for one time only, just to spearhead this Unholy Trio. Because I swear to God, I don't know what it is, if it's just me, but whenever the Unholy Trio enter the room on Raw, like, I just feel like the life just sucked out, is sucked out of the room, and just everyone, it just feels so drab and depressing. Maybe it's the fact that Baron Corbin still dresses like he owns the place that's giving me this feeling, but I don't honestly know. That's probably it, more than likely. And the fact that Drew McIntyre and Bobby Lashley are still allying with him when all that authority figure nonsense was thrown away. And even before, he lost his authoritative power thanks to that match at TLC against Braun Strowman. So what in the hell? It's just frustrating. Who do you think's gonna win?
Got lots of stuff to say here because it's a really interesting match and some stuff about what you said too. So in the notes, I've just put the Shield first as the Dollar Store Shield because that's literally what they are, the bootleg version. As far as Baron Corbin's dress code goes, I think the guy started to dress a bit suave every now and then. But seriously, for the match, I think a lot of this hinges on Ambrose. Match with Ambrose is very telling on what happens when his contract expires and he's supposed to be leaving the company. Around that, it could be Ambrose versus Reigns at Mania, or it could be Reigns versus, get this, Baron Corbin at Mania, which would be absolutely awful.
Oh, brother.
Exactly. Were to win, I think they just go with the Ambrose maybe stays off the card, because that is a possibility. Ambrose is not much of a exceeded WWE in making Ambrose less of an asset than before he announced he was leaving the company. And then having Reigns go against Corbin in a squash match, to announce that Roman's back or Roman at WrestleMania. But here's a more intriguing option, the one that WWE won't go for, but the one I want to see. I want to see Ambrose turn on Reigns. I want to see his final match between them two at WrestleMania. I want to see down, and then at the end, with Rollins winning the title, they can all goodbyes or whatever. But the thing is, it's just a lot of characters that you want to succeed. I mean, McIntyre and Lashley, any favors whatsoever, aligning themselves with Baron Corbin. I really hope they do something good with them soon. I don't want McIntyre to leave again. Certainly don't want Lashley to leave again. They are future Universal Champions, in my opinion. I really hope they do something with them before Mania, like a few weeks away. I mean, you could argue it is now, but like a few weeks, if they have nothing for them, they're going to put them in a battle royal, and that's going to absolutely kill any momentum they ever had of being on the main roster. They'll make them just feel like afterthoughts, which WWE should absolutely not do. My heart, I'm going with my head here, not my heart. My heart wants me the bootleg Shield to win so that Ambrose can turn heel on Roman. But my head is saying they're just going to go with a textbook. Fans happy. Go with the Shield to win.
Honestly, I'm not quite sure it could go any other way, to be honest. If you notice that with Rollins and Ambrose are the only two ones who have actually turned and broken up the Shield, but nah, I don't see Roman turning anytime soon. It's too early. Way too early. But anyways, yeah. Bootleg Shield. I mean, I could kind of see why you call them the Bootleg Shield. I mean, we've seen them do the Shield powerbomb and what they did for Elimination Chamber. Like when they literally did like that Shield bomb with Braun Strowman through all those tables. Yeah, that was yeesh. And just seeing that, I was like, oh my god. Ugh, just. It probably makes sense that the Shield would win here. But the rumor is that Ambrose might not actually be leaving and that the whole thing is supposedly a work. And it's sort of. It kind of depends on what happens with his, how his character's been. Because basically, they sort of booked him in this sort of rogue thing with him, like, announcing his leaving. But in actuality, I'm trying to think here for a bit. I don't remember the full story, but that his character would be somewhat of a loose cannon, at least as far as the bounds of PG can go. Ultimately, I probably am going to go with the Shield to win. I just don't see any other result happening personally. Our next match is Charlotte Flair versus Becky Lynch. It is a singles match with the stipulation that if Lynch wins, she will be added back to the Raw Women's Championship match at WrestleMania 35. But she won the damn Royal Rumble. What the hell was even the point then of having her win the Rumble? Well, apparently WWE, if you give me 1 second here, God, this cable is all tangled. I probably should have gotten this bit here, but basically, with this whole stipulation that they've done, and this whole storyline of taking Becky Lynch out of the stinking match in the first damn place, basically what WWE has done is taken the Rumble and just shot it dead. The point of it, dead in the water. Let me explain. So at the Royal Rumble, Becky Lynch was unsuccessful in regaining the SmackDown's Women's Championship, but later entered the Women's Royal Rumble match after Lana, got taken out with an injury and won by last eliminating Charlotte Flair despite injuring her own knee. In kayfabe, of course. And the next night on Raw, Lynch confronted Raw Women's Champion Ronda Rousey, making it no secret that she wanted to face her at WrestleMania 35. Lynch then refused a medical examination on her knee after a brawl with Flair on SmackDown. Stephanie McMahon then gave Lynch an ultimatum: have her knee examined or be suspended until she does. Lynch refused and attacked both Stephanie and Triple H. The following Raw, it was revealed that Lynch had been medically cleared after she apologized for the attacks. The suspension was lifted, and then guess who showed up and fucked everything up? Vincent Kennedy McMahon. Urgh. So Vince pretty much overruled Triple H and Stephanie by suspending Lynch for 60 days and replacing her with Flair as Rousey's WrestleMania opponent. And I did not sleep well that night, let me tell you that, ladies and gentlemen. On February 25th episode of Raw, Lynch was arrested after attacking Rousey, and Rousey then demanded that Lynch be reinstated and left the championship in the ring. The following week, Stephanie declared the title vacant, reinstated Lynch, and scheduled a match between her and Flair for the championship at Fastlane. But then, Rousey protested that she did not vacate the title and was only trying to send a message, prompting Stephanie to hand her back the title belt and change the stipulation of the Fastlane match. If Lynch won, she could be added back to the championship match at WrestleMania to make it a triple match. Oh, and Ronda turned heel, saying, "Damn the man, screw the woo, and no more Mrs. Nice Bitch." Ugh. If that sounds more complicated than it should be, that's because WWE has overbooked themselves to shit, Russo style. I mean, what the hell? It can't even have a simple goddamn blood feud between Becky Lynch and Ronda freaking Rousey. It's like Charlotte is always intertwined. It's like Becky and Charlotte are conjoined together. It's like when one's having an angle, the other one has to be there. You can't have them without the other. No, fuck that. Quite frankly, this should have straight up stayed a one-on-one singles feud between Becky Lynch and Ronda Rousey. Don't at me, it should have stayed that way. Quite frankly, they've overbooked this shit to be more complicated than they needed it to be. I mean, you already had Charlotte and Ronda at Survivor Series only because Nia Jax punched Becky Lynch in the face hard and busted her open. And then all of this happens here. It's like we're not even really gonna do it. To tell you the truth, this is really should have stayed a one-on-one feud. Judging how it's from looked from everything the build-up that was leading up to this, it should have stayed one-on-one. Years later, if they actually do decide to bring this feud back up with Becky and Ronda and do actually make it a one-on-one match, it's not going to have the same impact that it would have now. Oh, just who do you think's gonna win? Oh, I need a moment.
Well, I sort of disagree with you on the aspect that this. I mean, it is overbooked, but if you look at it, if you take your mind out of it, WWE's booker's head, and you just think of it as just as a. I know it sounds stupid to think of it as a casual fan, but I mean, there's a lot of dynamics going on. I know, but I feel like everything's gonna smooth out after Fastlane. I mean, if you think back to TLC, that makes a hell of a lot more sense right now. Because at the time, we had no idea why Ronda Rousey would come out, take ladders out from underneath Flair and Lynch to have Asuka climb up a win. But now it makes sense. I'm not, as with Rousey, I know you forget Rousey, she's kind of with what she said about WWE being scripted and all the fans are, you know what, I'm not a fan of her breaking kayfabe. That's because it has that main event feel. I don't feel I've ever been this hyped for a WrestleMania match in Reigns, and I know that may be controversial. That match came up good. Like on this match has a match, this has the potential to be a match of the night. Without overthinking things, this is going to be a great main event. Convoluted because Vince McMahon had to stick his big nose in where it wasn't involved. I think we can all agree with that. And isn't it obvious? We know who's going to win. It's going to be Becky Lynch pinning Charlotte, and then we can finally see this storyline get a bit more logical in the brains of all of our fans in WWE. We just need to wait. I know patience isn't been the thing we've been highest on with WWE before. That's more reserved for NXT or 205 Live. But I just feel like we need to give this storyline some time because right now it is a hot mess. But I think it better do, otherwise it may get a bit worse before it gets better. Becky Lynch to win.
It just kind of makes it seemingly pointless for Becky's win at the Royal Rumble. It's like you might as well have just had Charlotte win, honestly. I mean, you look at this, it's like, well, why the hell does she have to fight to get even back in the damn match that she already should be guaranteed for winning the Rumble? It's just felt too much. And like I said, I stand by what I said about how the impact is lessened a little bit by this. And I've heard rumors, essentially, that they've only added Charlotte in because of the damn injury bug, because, injuries in these last several years have been way too much, quite frankly, and that if one person goes down, the whole damn match is jeopardized. It's pretty ridiculous that they go so far to a distance just because of one little thing, instead of just playing it smart or whatever, but maybe it might be as a triple threat, but I don't know. Apparently they also still want to protect Ronda, which is admittedly kind of pointless because she's had a couple losses. Granted, she's never been pinned or submitted directly in those losses. They were tag matches, and one of them, I believe it was her and Natalya tapped out to the bank statement. And the other one was a DQ loss, courtesy of Becky Lynch interference attacking Natalya, even though Natalya wasn't legal, so none of that should have even made any sense, but whatever. It's kind of funny, too, because with the angle they showed her at, just a little extra side thought, from the angle they showed her at initially, actually, I almost thought, what the hell is Matt Riddle doing on Raw? But then I looked and I was like, oh, it's just Becky Lynch. It's just the camera angle almost made it or look like Matt Riddle. I don't know. And I know they have different hair colors, but I swear the lighting might have had something to do with that. I don't know. Honestly, Becky Lynch has to win. They've been building up to this entire thing to be a triple threat match. Apparently, it was always the plan, and this convoluted method was always the way to get there. I just go with Becky Lynch and move on. I've said enough, and if I was to keep going on any longer, this video would be longer than it probably already is. Becky Lynch to win. Alright, thankfully this last match we have isn't going to be nearly as exhaustive as that last match we talked about, but unfortunately it's kind of an afterthought. It's the Revival versus Aleister Black and Ricochet versus Chad Gable and Bobby Roode. So, on the February 11th episode of Raw, the Revival defeated Bobby Roode and Chad Gable to win the Raw Tag Team Championships, and I was like, well, it's about fucking time. Or so I thought. And then the following week, NXT call-ups Aleister Black and Ricochet made their main roster debuts, and they defeated the Revival in a non-title match. Ouch, the Revival's not looking good so far. And on the March 4th episode of Raw, Black and Ricochet were granted a Raw Tag Team Championship match against the Revival, but it ended up in a disqualification after Roode and Gable attacked the Revival. And now we have a triple threat match between all these teams set up. It does seem kind of another makeshift pairing of Aleister Black and Ricochet, but I guess I shouldn't be all too surprised at this point with these makeshift tag teams, you know. And it just kind of sucks because honestly, the Revival have not been booked well as champions. They've not been champions for very long. They've only been champions for like 25 days in total. And unfortunately, they've gotten pinned already by the rookies from NXT, supposedly. Well, not quite rookies, but they're still a little fresh on the main roster, Aleister Black and Ricochet. And I like them both a lot, but yeesh, seems so sudden, but I don't know. It just feels so much. And then, of course, then Chad Gable, Bobby Roode, previous champs get involved, and yeah. It's just, it sucks, but not quite sucks. Ugh, it's just this match has got me going all these ways. Healy, who do you think's gonna win?
It's certainly an interesting match. It's one that last month I wasn't really particularly thinking I was going to see because who would have thought Aleister Black and Ricochet would be on the main roster, let alone in a tag team. You'd think that they'd at least wait until after WrestleMania 35. I think it's way too early for them. I think that if they're ever going to win a title, it's got to be like a United States or Intercontinental title. I think they're too good to be put into a tag team together. I think they need to let their two singles guys bunch together. And yeah, well, it's just that they do their own thing as a tag team. You know, there's not much chemistry, I'd say, but I don't know. It's just the fact that they're much better suited as single stars. With the Revival, WWE by the proverbial bullshit of uncertainty. You know, you've got that small yet dangerous AEW. If they don't feel like they're being treated well, something that they can jump ship. They'll either jump ship or just won't perform for WWE, and that'll be a huge loss for them. They've been consistently performing to a high standard. I mentioned Roode and Gable as the third team because it really does feel like they're the third wheel. And he's in the Black Ricochet and Revival versus Revival, just a 2-on-2 tag match. Don't see Roode and Gable getting the titles back. That feels like it's just regressing the tag team scene. Black and Ricochet win the tag titles, all tag titles. I mean, Finn's what he says goes, but at the same time, I haven't seen the spoilers for the classic, but I do know they're a tag team. They'll go far in that tournament considering the caliber of names. Through the process of elimination, match on a grander stage with the more Revival to retain.
Yeah, I see what you mean here for this stuff. It's kind of crazy, actually, that they have been put into a tag team, and looking at this, I really am honestly not sure. I'm actually kind of tempted to honestly say Aleister Black and Ricochet, because probably I have a feeling that they may actually finally break up Ruble for good, actually, and then just sort of have them kind of feuding. Because, I mean, once you've already had them won the belts here, there's really not much else to do here for them. And honestly, I kind of do wish, I don't know, just on one hand, it would probably be Rudeable in there. They're probably in there just to eat the pin, honestly. But honestly, it's a matter of who's going to pin them. I mean, if you have the Revival pin them, I mean, you have Black and Ricochet losing, but since they're not directly eating the pin, they still kind of look strong? Maybe? Maybe not? I don't know. On the other hand, if you have Black and Ricochet pinning Ruble, then maybe the Revival still look strong, even if though they lose the belts, but then they feud with them for a bit. It's too convoluted, quite frankly. And I wish they would have just had some singles runs. I mean, I kind of expected Aleister Black and Ricochet to be called up soon, but I kind of didn't expect it this soon. And that the only reason that these two are in the match is because they were going to have plans for DIY to come back together. But unfortunately, the plan got nixed because Tommaso Ciampa went in for neck surgery, and unfortunately he also had to vacate the NXT Championship, and we here at AWN would like to wish Tommaso Ciampa a safe and speedy recovery, even if he is a bit of a black heart. But yeah, enough of this here. Like, who do I think's honestly gonna win? I don't even know if I can think. It's so hard. How can I choose? It's so damn tough. It's like Revival either still look like crappy champions throughout a very short run, or Aleister Black and Ricochet take them down. It's like, I mean, they still at least get more to revive. I mean, it's not like we haven't seen Aleister Black and Ricochet lose before, but fuck it. I'm just gonna go with the Revival. And that's going to do it for us for Fastlane. I know it actually seemed a little more complicated than it is, but that's kind of what happens, ladies and gentlemen. Honestly, though, what do you expect? Maybe this actually might be a more interesting show than we thought. Well, at least more certainly than I think so. Hey, you never know what to expect. But anyways, yeah, this is actually probably going to be a bit more interesting than it should be. And maybe it might actually be a decent Fastlane. But that's all from us for now. I want to say, once again, thanks, Heathie, for being here. Say bye, Heathie.
Guys.
Yeah, and we will probably be back for some other crazy stuff, too. I mean, you've got the Hall of Fame upcoming. There's going to be a lot to talk about there. And, of course, we've got WrestleMania itself, so we'll be back for around one of those two soon. Probably the Hall of Fame first, and then Mania. But until then, bye for now, and thanks for watching.